Alrighty, good evening, internet. We'll just combine Facebook and YouTube, call it the FaceTube.
I like it. I like it. FaceTube.
Saves time. The old FaceTube. All right, and this one is streaming on YouTube and the Empowered Serenity homepage.
Right, and I shared it on the Lasting Serenity page, so it's technically streaming there as well as the MPowered Serenity Insiders group.
We're one step closer to total
world domination. Yep. Forget coast to coast.
That's right. Why?
We just want to take over the world.
Yeah, why sell ourselves short? You know, you gotta go big. It's all about being big. Otherwise, you limit yourself. And we're not ones for limiting beliefs, right?
No, we definitely aren't.
No.
Whether we can see them or not.
Yeah. Ooh, valid.
Right? Okay.
Well, if we believe a certain concept about how the world exists out there, if we get a big enough telescope, we might be able to see the coasts.
You just might. Or you could see the ice walls.
That's right.
Depending.
All right, well, let's not limit our listening demographic.
Oh, no, that's true. But I am kind of wondering about that whole thing when I was a kid. You know how they said you could just dig to China? Like, that's not real anymore? Okay, we're not going there. We're talking about something different. Although that's been a little bit present in our conversation the last couple of days. So, in fairness,
not just the topic, just the energy and the dare I say symptoms around the topic, right?
Yeah. I think that's a very nice and kind way to put it. You know, I don't know how else you're supposed to react to the idea of the Pac-Man effect.
Right.
But again, well, maybe that's a sign. It's a sign of something. I don't know what.
We'll figure it out.
Anyway, I'm Angie.
And I am Michael.
And
together,
conveniently enough, we come up with our names on the correct side of the screen. Right. How do you like that?
Oh, nice. Good forethought.
Yeah.
Master of the graphics.
There you go. And like he was about to say when I interrupted, he's accustomed to me interrupting, though, I think, by now. Together, we are MPowered Serenity. Genius. Right? That was just complete genius. Had to be because it came out of our mouths at the same time.
That's right.
Like virtually identical time.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think we both kind of saw the light bulb go off in each other's faces, and then it just kind of came out. It was good stuff.
Yeah. It is because, I mean, if you really think about it, MPowered Serenity, they go together.
Mm-hmm.
You get empowered, you acquire serenity. Like, how much better could it be?
It's a two-step process. Nice and easy. Just the way we like it.
Easy. Simple. Not too, oh, sorry.
Complicated.
I knocked over my minion. Can't be slamming on the counter. It's a bad thing to do. Or the desk, or technically dining room table is what this actually is. Anyway, here we go with our shenanigans. Maybe we should call this shenanigans, MPowered shenanigans.
Maybe we should.
It is one of my favorite words, you know.
We'll just cross out the Erenity, and we'll just
right
shenanigans next to it. I think that's
yeah. Actually, we know somebody that could probably do that. Just saying.
We do.
Anyway, so
yeah, before we get too sidetracked, which we're
because
good for.
The next thing you know, it'll be 8 o'clock and we'll be done, and we won't have talked anything about what we came on here to talk about. Although I don't think that's terrible.
No,
I guess. Well, I guess it depends on whether or not people want to listen to us.
Right. It'll be a good fluid conversation. It always is.
It is. And I think this is really a good topic, which actually is very interesting. I opened up my browser earlier today, and the first thing I saw on the Facebook page was a meme that was about signs. I was like, oh, is that a sign? Look at that. You gave me a sign. We're having a talk show about signs tonight. Come and listen. So I don't know. Signs. What kind of signs are there? What are signs? So many things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, repeating numbers are signs. Feathers, pennies.
Yeah.
Chains, sightings. I mean, they come in all forms, and I think the more that you connect to your intuition and the more you do the kind of work that we do, the less you kind of see signs themselves, right? Because you
start to know it's less of an ocular experience.
Right. And so if you have a belief system that allows for the idea of communication with those that would guide you through this journey, when you when you empower your connection to that guidance, I'm trying to use those words as many times as I can. Maybe do you diminish the need for those signs? Because sometimes I think those signs are their way of, like, hey, excuse me.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, Ed. I mean, I don't get tripped as much as I used to.
Right? See? I mean, I think depends on who you talk to, and I think that I think there's somewhere in the middle, maybe, with the idea of signs. Like there are some people who say everything is a sign, and I think that's
I think that can be overwhelming.
Right? I think it could.
I think because then you're always then you're always seeking, and you're not digesting the information. Then you're always just on the lookout for signs. That's where your awareness goes. So then you're not internalizing anything. You're not accessing that information.
That's brilliant, really. I mean, that's why you want to empower yourself. Yourself, right? I'm just going to keep putting the shameless plugs in there. But, it's interesting that you say that like that, because you see that I'm in a couple of groups. Actually, only really one that's sort of, our group that's different. One that kind of leans towards the spiritual. And you notice when there's an influx of new people, they'll say things like, my right eye is twitching. Is that a sign? Or I have a pain in my left side that hasn't gone away for 3 days. Oh, look at me pointing at my right side. Like, I have no concept of left and right. Is that a sign? And it's like, hello, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a sign that you have a problem with your liver. You should probably go to the doctor. So I think it's really important, instead of just surrendering to the signs, to still apply, what is the word I'm looking for?
Common sense.
There you go. That one. That is it. That's actually it. Common sense to the situation. So, if you're into signs and signals, I suppose the best possible thing to do is do the work to increase that connection, so that you don't have to worry about the signs anymore. I never see signs anymore, really. Not like I once did. Feathers and pennies and this and that. And I wonder, right? Is it because I'm having conversations with those that were sending me the signs? I mean, I think
it just moved to a different, your filter shifted, right?
Yeah.
So instead of it being an ocular experience, now it's becoming like a mental cognizant experience. So you're still getting that same information, and you're probably actually getting it clearer and in a way that you're able to understand better, as opposed to, especially in the beginning, let's take like animal signs, like seeing hawks or feathers or anything. I think a lot of people tend to go straight to the book, or even you can kind of use that application for doing tarot readings and oracle readings. Eventually, you don't need to use the books anymore. You start to build up your own formula for how the things work for you. So
right.
instead of, this is one person's interpretation of what the card says or what a hawk means. It doesn't mean that later on down the road that they're wrong. It's just you've created your own formula for what those signs mean to you. And I think that's a good start to where you don't necessarily need the visual cues anymore. Like you don't. I really don't anymore. I do get tripped on occasion.
That's only because you get distracted.
That's indeed right.
Like, hello, remember, you're on a mission here. Right? Yeah, yes, I agree with that. That it's an interesting journey, and we are instructors, we're energy masters. That's what we do. So it's important, I think, for us to always be able to honor the beginner's mind. But I think it's also important that we sort of lead by example and say, look, if you do the work, this is where you can get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks different for everyone. I have a smarty pants that talks through me, but that doesn't mean you will, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And I think that's really the amazing focus of our work, is that the way we want to present it to people is it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's like, let's figure out what sort of frequency you're dialed into. And so you can start. And that's the other thing too, right? Like, I think the signs are like, hello, excuse me, there's something here you need to look into.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do recall there was a time when I first started energy work, and I would see things like, you've heard the story about the American chopper guys riding by on the motorcycles, and I just kept seeing them go by. And to me, that's a sign, right? I'm in the energy zone. I'm connected to somebody's energy. I'm working with this person. And I'm like, what is this? Why am I seeing this? Like, not literally, right? But how you visualize things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally figured out, I was like, oh, hold on a minute. Let me ask this person, do you have issues with your father? And she said, absolutely. And I was like, well, okay, there you go. So I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what? Excuse me. Hello. It would be very much easier if you just started telling me stuff. Right? Like all this jumping through hoops to try and translate this information is exhausting to me. Now, there are people who think it's fun, who, everybody's different, right? Me, I'm like, cut to the chase. Why does it have to be so complicated? Just go ahead and tell me already, right? So we can all get to different places with that. I think it's, what works for me, and that visual may mean something different to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's how my brain or my mind interpreted the energy that was coming my way. Because if signs are energy, just like everything else, then it's how you connect to receive and interpret it. Interpret. So I don't know. It's interesting though, because I wonder if there's a collective consciousness thing that's also tied to that. Like, everybody believes 11/11 is a new beginning. And so people who see 11/11 all the time, they think they're on the verge of something. And even Ellen DeGeneres, she formed a recording company and called it 11/11 because she kept seeing 11/11. So, yeah. So, there's a collective consciousness piece. Of course, me, in the past, I have run across someone who says, I'm seeing 11/11, for I don't know how long, a long time, 11/11. And I'm like, well, maybe you just look at the clock the same time every day. And I recognize that is absolutely an inappropriate response to anybody in any way, shape, or form, because it actually is some kind of sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I shifted that to a question. Well, who's trying to get a hold of you, and what do you think they want?
I think that's
right?
a fair rebuttal.
or a fair reversal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then it gets people's brains working, to really kind of set them off on a path to figure out, how they do interpret energy, just like you were saying. Then it really sets them in the motion of thinking about that differently, as opposed to just being, what it said in a book. Because to them, it may not mean a new beginning. It may be, any number of things, but you won't know until you start asking the right questions. So I think that's a very good, 1-2 punch of a question for anyone to really start asking when they see things a lot, or they start to notice patterns, or any synchronicities, really.
Exactly. And I think, again, sometimes I stumble over how to word things, because I never want them to seem like I am diminishing, someone's journey or anything. But it's like, I feel like the more empowered they are to understand that they hold all the power, the easier it is for them to interpret those signs, right? Like, so there is a shift that happens. And truthfully, I was in the beginning of this journey once too. I speak from experience. You speak from experience, where there is that shift that happens, where intuition or guidance, whatever you want to call it, divine wisdom, stops happening to you, and you start being able to control. Now, look, this is the answer I want, right? I don't need you to tell me over and over and over again to, whatever, buy a book, right? I want the answer. Like, this is what I want to know. So we're all in different spots in the journey. And I think that it's just, what are you comfortable with? How do you actually get that information? Can you shift how you get that information? Can you shift, maybe you start out, you don't hear anything, you don't see anything, you don't feel anything. You hold a crystal and it feels like nothing. And then all of a sudden, you work with them enough, right? You hold them and then they tell you, oh no, do this. And then, right? Like, I don't know. What about like angel numbers? There's totally books. And then what about the energy from numbers and the power of numbers? Like have you ever seen 444 and put your hand across the screen or across the page and felt the energy from the numbers?
I actually haven't. That's a really interesting exploration to do.
Yeah. It's there. Do you remember there were books? 333, 444, 888. I don't remember who wrote the books. I'm sure you're going to look it up as we speak.
That's right.
But I remember putting my hands on those books, and the energy emanating from the book before I even cracked it open was almost overwhelming. Like, wow. It was powerful, the energy of it. So maybe there's even more to it than just the idea that, 444 is that your angels are looking out for you. Maybe if you were to connect with the energy of those numbers, there'd be even more of a message for you in there. Like something more dialed in or more specific.
Right to you, right? Because it's all coming through your filter. It's you're receiving that information. So what does it mean to you? I mean, it's a good start to figure out what it can help you dial it in when you read what it means to somebody else. But what does it mean to you? What were your 2 questions you asked?
The name of the person that wrote those books. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, but the person who kept seeing 1111 and your reversal.
Who's trying to get a hold of you? Or what did I now I don't remember exactly what I asked.
We'll have to go back.
Why do you do that?
I don't know.
It was, I was like, what does it mean to you, and who's trying to get a hold of you, and what do those numbers mean to you specifically, not just
right.
Well, I don't know. I guess we can watch and
we'll watch it. That's right.
Rewind.
It's a good, yeah. Rewind.
I'm guessing
that's a good,
about
good placement there that you can always rewatch any of these. You don't always have to watch them live. They'll probably be up forever for the far foreseeable future until the internet doesn't exist anymore. But I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. So on the offer of those books, it's hard to find because there is so much information about angel numbers all over the internet.
Oh, right.
Yep.
I can't remember her name. It was like it was. Oh, I know how to find it. Hang on.
Yeah.
You look at a place that sells books.
There you go.
Crystal Masters, Alana Fairchild.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm. It was 333-444 and 888. And I don't know what I was thinking. I spent a lot of money on those books. And I don't really sit and read very much. So not like I can't read or I don't want to read, but I do a lot, right? I have a lot to do. So I didn't really have a lot of time for it, but I recall just holding those books, and the energy coming from the books was just unbelievable.
Right, and that makes sense, right? Because because those numbers are repeated throughout every page, and you were just talking about how just holding your hand up to a 333 or any angel number, that has a potent feel to it. So, now you're compounding that with pages and pages and pages of those numbers. Kind of
right. Yeah. And so the 444 was angels, and I believe the 888 is goddesses, crystal goddesses. So Alana Fairchild is she writes she does oracle cards. She does a lot of oracle cards. So, and actually I rather enjoy her oracle cards. I'm trying to remember. One of the ones I've got of hers is that, what is it called? I don't remember. Swiss cheese in my brain. Anyway, so I wonder, we've been playing with the idea of symbols and signs and augmenting water.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, fascinating. Right? Like, what if you took that bottle of water and a sign that you found, something you saw, a penny that, like I know I've gotten pennies because I remember one of the first signs I actually remember was a penny that I found in the middle of a hall where nobody carried money. And it actually was a 1975 penny, which is the year that my mother passed away. So I knew without a shadow of a doubt that was a sign, I'm here you go. And then of course that you go into that conversation about signs where you start talking about earthbound spirits that can manipulate energy and things, right? Which to me is a whole other talk show, right? That's a whole other subject.
Yeah, I think so.
And I've got interesting ideas on that too. So I think we could have a really lively conversation over that one as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
But what if you were to you found a feather, you found a penny. I actually have a friend who told me that whenever she felt, in the back of her head that her father was trying to contact her, she would find, like, in the parking lot or something, piles of coins, like a handful. So he must have been saving them up until he could get them all gathered up in one space or something. But if you took the penny or the feather or that number that you're seeing over and over again, and you put it, drew it on a piece of paper like we've been doing, and put a glass jar of water over it, and you drank the water and just sat back and took the ride, right? What would that be like? That would be a blast.
That would be. Yeah, especially, considering all the things we've been doing with water.
Yeah, right. Stuff. right? Chakra balancing. I sent it out to somebody. I sent that out to somebody who was struggling, and it's like, wow, I feel calmer already. I was like, there you go, you know. So the idea of playing in the energy and connecting to the energy is a fascinating one. But if signs are from your guides, teachers, angels, your higher self, your loved ones, what, you know, whatever, then they've got to be energetic in nature. So they would be subject to whatever your rules are for energetic interpretation, right? Because the way we see and view and interpret energy, I think, is a little bit different than, well, not different. We have our own way of thinking. Like, I never want to make it sound like we're better than anyone, or we're just different. Like, we like to play in the energy. It's fun. We're not afraid, because I think sometimes people are a little trepidatious of what they can't see, right? Or there's that sort of human sinking mirror in the ceiling feeling about the idea of the beyond, which is where many people think these signs originate from. And so how do you get to a place where you just look at it as a conversation?
Practice.
Take a train ride, maybe. I don't know.
Take a train ride. There you go.
There you go.
And I think that's a good segue into, you know, intuition is really, we view intuition as a muscle. You know, you have to flex it. You have to work it out. And so in the beginning, you know, you may not, when you ask those questions about, oh, where did this come from? What does it mean? You may not necessarily get an answer. I mean, look at how I used to meditate. To just sit there for 20 minutes, and that's couldn't be farther from how it is now. You know, but I didn't just wake up one day and, you know, all of a sudden I was a visual meditator. I mean, it could have been after that time I hit my head. You know?
No, I think that happened before you hit your head. Right?
Yeah, I know. But you know, it takes.
There is that whole iolite thing. I don't know.
Well, that could that could really spice up the visualizations, I'm sure, because that's a beautiful piece of iolite.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's got some juice, that's for sure. But I think, you know, it's important to realize that it does take practice, and it doesn't happen overnight. And, you know, the more you ask those questions and the more you have the awareness to ask those questions, eventually, you know, after working out that intuitive muscle, just like any other muscle in the body, it'll all just start to click and fall into place. So I think that's important to say.
Yeah. And you know, I love that you brought that up, because, you know, for me, that's how I view the meditation work we do, or whatever you want to call it. I had somebody once tell me that journeying is not meditation. Fine. Whatever you want to call it, I don't care. It's information gathering for me, right? Like, it is me putting my mind and helping others put their mind into an optimal state to receive information and to take control of how they interpret that energy, right? Like, so as an example, because I brought it up, the train, when we do the train meditation, and you know how in those meditations there will be, like, you go into a room and there's a chalkboard on the wall, or you're looking out the train and there's a billboard that, you know, in your view as you pass by. Take note of what the billboard has on it, right? You remember that, right? And how everyone comes back and everyone comes back, and it's either it was purple, or it said pay attention, or, I mean, always, right? There's some kind of information on that chalkboard, that sign, whatever. So is that also a sign? Like, are now you putting yourself into an optimal state to receive those signs? Because if signs are the way that you receive energy from your guides, teachers, and angels, now you're taking control of it, right? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. I mean, then, you're already, now you're instead of just walking through, normal daily life, you're priming, you're priming that muscle to receive that information. So 100% those are signs. I mean, I think even more clear cut than finding a feather or finding a penny. It kind of takes the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there still might be questions to ask from that information that you receive, but I think you're putting your mental state and your physical state, your whole being, into a position where you're more accepting to receiving energy.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. Okay, that's it, folks. Have a good night now.
We're good. Now we can move on to M. Night Shyamalan's movie.
Yeah, I mean, that is that I suppose that sort of thing does warrant a piece of the conversation. Anyway, but I'm gonna just go for one more shameless plug before we move on. MPowered Serenity, right? MPowered. We want to empower you to understand how to create that connection for yourself, because I really think that you hit it right, like on the money, where it's where the more it's about you taking control and not just happening to you, the better the information is going to be that you have. You'll still have questions, but you'll have answers, to jump from, instead of, well, where did this feather come from? Who sent it to me? I mean, you have to ask those questions, right? Maybe a bird was flying over and lost a feather, because, sometimes a rock is just a rock. But
yep.
But if you actually, so what about this then? If you actually believe in your belief system that everything is a sign, does that make everything a sign? Right? So who am I to say it's not a sign, I guess?
Right.
And right? Like, you and I think that as you move through a journey like this, and as you acquire certain levels of mastery, you kind of might have a tendency to be, I don't know, a little bit like that. I do try hard not to be that way, like to allow people to meet people where they are and allow people to form their own opinions.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's difficult, because we're still human, to kind of take what that has definitely worked for you out of the equation, because it works for you extremely well.
Right. Yes. So I appreciate that. I actually do appreciate you giving me a little leeway. I think maybe that's why our collaboration is so magical, right? There's that sort of, I don't know.
The old give and take.
Yes. And it's like, oh yeah, look, she's at it again. Moving on. Just like the the buttons, right? But anyway, so since you sort of brought it up, M. Night Shyamalan's movie Signs, I'll tell you, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but when I was younger, I was completely 100% terrorized by like the Book of Revelations, 666, it's a sign. Oh my God, you see 666 on a license plate. That car has got the devil driving it. All that fear conscious stuff, right? And so I wonder about that sometimes, is that like how much of that, I mean, a lot of it, I mean, first of all, in my mind now, oh gosh, well, the Bible's a book, right? It's a channeled piece of information, but it was channeled, millennia ago, and the times were different. So the people who were channeling had a different filter, right? Does that sound right? But I wonder, like Nostradamus or the Book of Revelations or some of those prophets, do they just have the ability to connect to energy and they have an effed up filter, so they interpret it that way. Does it really mean it's set in stone?
No, I mean, that's,
I don't think
it's coming
so.
through their filter. So I really like 666 because, it has so much doom and gloom attached to it, but it also has the exact opposite attached to it. Carbon 12 has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. Can't have life without carbon. So it's just about your filter and, what your mental state is. If you're a person who walks around thinking that everything's out to get you and this and that, and you see 666 and you have that background, of course you're going to think that is a horrible number. But someone, on the polar opposite end of that spectrum is going to see 666 with the knowledge that it's carbon 12 and think that that's, what a great thing to see. Good things are coming, however else they're going to interpret that. So I think it's
right. I mean,
all the signs got to go through your filter and your mental state. And, if you're out of balance, your information is going to be out of balance.
And the way you receive it, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Doesn't mean you're wrong, or, you're still getting that information, but why be negative about it? Right.
Right.
Why let that sneak into your brain that this is a negative experience? Why not, change your cognitive thinking on that and spin it around to the positive? One, it's better.
Right.
Two, it's better.
Well, okay, so I don't even know when it was that. So Iron Maiden, 666, the number of the beast. I don't really know when it came out, but I don't think it really makes any difference. 70s, 80s, whatever. So that was one of those things. And, I wouldn't listen to it like that. I would turn it off because I was afraid. Like, I had to work hard to move out of fear, but, I was left to my own devices when I was 16. That's all I'm going for right now. I always had somebody telling me the world was going to end or this was going to, like it was just crazy for a while. And I feel like now when I look backwards at it, I acquired a lot of knowledge about how to sort of handle those things. That's valuable to me now. I understand that fear because I remember I had it. But what I was going to say is Iron Maiden, 666, the number of the beast. How often have you heard me talk about riding around on a dragon? And what is a beast if it's not a dragon?
Pretty valid.
Right?
Pretty valid.
So, I don't know, like, I don't want to be afraid. I don't, I never enjoyed it. I didn't sleep well. I had little kids and I was constantly worried, and, it just doesn't, what kind of a mechanism is in you, not you, but you, that you hold on to fear like that, like it's some kind of a security blanket. Because I think that that's the case sometimes, so where is there the sign that says let go, like everything's okay, everything's going to be all right, everything's going to be fine? What if you focused on that for a while instead of...
It's a good thought.
Right? Like, I remember seeing rainbows, which is interesting. I remember seeing rainbows and thinking, oh, it's okay, I can like breathe a sigh of relief for a little while. Like, I honestly believed that was whatever message it was telling me that everything was going to be okay. Because there was a long time I walked around believing that it wasn't.
Right. So, I mean, it's kind of like a Stockholm syndrome thing, right? That's when you're like start to be sympathetic for your abductor, right? That's the right thing.
Yep, that's
so,
it.
Because you had those things happen to you for so long, they became your safety blanket. They became the things that were going to help you get out of whatever situation you're in, when in fact, things just got a little switched around. Interesting.
Right? Like, so, I don't know, like, where is it in a person that they just because it is a choice, right? It doesn't matter. It is a choice. It's not always an easy choice, but it's a choice. Like, where does somebody, and I remember I finally chose not to tolerate, that sort of negativity coming my way anymore. And that's what led me into this journey in the first place. Last week I told the story about the guy, where I wore the like tourmaline on my back. So
it's almost like you were empowered.
Right? Good job, right? Yes. That's, so I mean, you hear about Tesla talking about energy, Einstein, like the different little snippets of people that you see. I hate the way they toss around the word awakening and enlightenment and ascension. And, I remember having a conversation with somebody who was talking about the awakening as though it was something to be afraid of. Awakening, what is that? Like, let's just all walk into the light. I mean, I get it now, things are scary. So what if everybody today just said, give me a sign that everything's going to be okay? And it's interesting because I saw a post from Lisa Williams, famous TV medium, who she posted a beautiful picture of a rainbow, and she's like, see, you asked for a sign and you get it.
Nice.
So what about that? Asking for a sign, like how people are in a place where they don't know how to interpret. They go Google, what does 444 mean? What about that? You want a sign. Should I do this or that? Give me a sign. So give me a sign. Great. You get a sign. Then you don't believe the sign. And then they give you another sign. And then you are like, oh, well, that's two now. Then they trip you. Right.
That's right. That's right.
So is there a valid question there? Like, okay, look, I need this information. I'm trying to decide what's in alignment for me. Can you please send me a sign that is easy to spot in the physical world?
I think that's a good point too, is, don't limit yourself, ask, you can ask specific questions. I think almost the more specific, the better, then it kind of helps take the guesswork out, because then you really narrow down what it is that you want to know, what you're looking for. And then, you're more likely to have that experience or to receive that what you're looking for a lot faster.
Right. And you're working that muscle you're talking about.
Right. Exactly.
Doing it that way. Whatever, I mean, if you really think about it, signs, I suppose there's spontaneous signs, rainbows that appear or things like that. But, we interact with signs all the time. We flip a coin, we throw the dice, we pull a card. Like, those are all signs. I took a mediumship class. I'm not, I guess I'm going to say guess with who, right? But that's all. But one of the things that this person said was to have a little box of, just things to pick up and hold, like trinket things, a spoon, a pen, whatever. And then also to be fluid in the way that you moved around your room, like see where your attention is drawn. Like, why am I looking at that vase? Oh, it looks like an urn. You have your mother's urn, or whatever it might be.
Right.
So those are signs too, I think, right? They're like signals. And so she's teaching you how to connect to and process those signals. It's really all about interpreting energy, signs.
Yeah. Talk about this one. So I have a yogi tea, and they always have very nice bits of wisdom on the back. And I don't think that I've looked at, like, I don't know, I drink a lot of tea. I haven't looked at one in a long time because they're always there. It was develop the power of listening, right? How fitting for today's.
Oh, that's amazing.
I know.
That's amazing. Develop the power of listening. Wow. See, That was weird. What was that?
Did we break the matrix again?
I don't know. I'm trying not to look at the video, because you know what happens. Like then some weird kind of thing happens. Oh no, it's about to start. No, stop. I thought I saw a sign on the other. No, I'm just kidding. I got distracted and I was trying to make sure nothing
catastrophic happened.
Catastrophic was going on.
Still here.
There you go. Anyway, wow.
But I think that's a good, after you're done asking these questions, right? You got to listen. You have to be open to listening and open to receiving. Otherwise, you're going to miss it.
Right.
It'll just never show up. So thank you, T.
Yeah. Right. Like, or how about, this is not quite there, but kind of, the old story about, old Joe was on his deathbed, and as he made his way to meet God, he said, God, I don't know how many times I asked you to, let me win the lottery. And God's like, well, you could have won the lottery. Well, but I didn't. Why not? Well, you never bought a ticket, right?
Yeah,
like,
right there you go.
You have to take that action. So you have to put yourself in the position where you can see those things and pay attention and listen. And there was one actually, and I never actually figured out, because this was before, maybe one day I'll go into a meditation and see if I can find out why. I guess I can find out why, but I remember seeing so regularly, day after day after day, license plate that said Druid on it.
Mm.
And I was like, what does this mean? Like, who's trying to tell me something? And then I finally chalked it up in myself to say, oh, well, we probably just drive to work in the same time every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the minute I said that, I never saw it again. So what about that idea? Like, we're sending you a sign, you dismiss the sign. Now you miss out on the information.
Or it came to you in a different way.
Good point. Very good point. Very good point, actually.
Right, because, then, those wiser than us decided that this obviously was not going to work. Well, let's try a different avenue.
That is a very good point. That is a very good point. Like,
or you're supposed to start playing fantasy games like World of Warcraft and create a druid.
Right? Yeah.
Could have been.
I think when I played Repels, I used to play as a druid. But anyway, see that? And then it got to be too repetitive. So, you can't choose to be a druid in Zelda, but that's me.
Nope.
What are you going to do? Wow. Like, who knew there was so much to talk about when it comes to signs? I think there's the other thing too, and it does bear repeating or touching on, is that, you got to pay attention. You have to be discerning. You have a pain in your right side. It could be a sign that you have appendicitis. You need to get that looked at. Like, that's kind of, I guess that's why that sort of thing is frustrating to me, because it seems like people are waiting for guidance and they're only going to act if they get this guidance. And to me, that's like handing all your power away.
Right. Totally. Well, yeah, because we were having this conversation the other day, what did I say at the space? Those people are putting too much power into spirituality, right? You got to have an equal balance of mind, body, and spirit, right?
Yeah. Yes. So, yes. That was it. The balance thing.
Yes. This, you can't look to spirituality for all your answers. You can't. You can't look to science for all your answers. You can't look to religion for all your answers. You can't look for get a nice group poll, and the power of listening, right?
That's it. Because when you get into trouble, or I don't know you, but me, a lot of people, is when you decide that you know better. Right? I don't need to listen. I'm good. Got this. Really? All right then. Here's and I'm a victim of that in my own life, right? Like, this is also experience. Assuming that I've got something under control. And then somebody actually said to me the other day that if you can adapt to change, you are so far ahead of the game, right? Like, because it's easy to be on an even keel and everything is rolling, like you want it to. Mm-hmm. But if something comes along and knocks you out of kilter, then, So
it's a good thing we're all human, because we're pretty adaptable creatures right out of the gate too. So,
well, that's true.
That's a bonus. And I guess maybe that's also ties into sometimes we think we know better.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? I mean, the truth is, we're all here, trying to learn something, trying to figure out. Really, what I believe is that we're here to experience being human, and all that entails. So why everybody is in such a hurry to find themselves in what is it? 5D, right? 5D, fifth dimension. 5G. Yeah. Oh, that too. Well, we can't even talk about that.
We don't have enough time.
We don't have enough time to talk about that. It's you know what? We have 5 minutes left. So are there times when looking for a sign is a way to escape responsibility? Like, well, I was going to do that, but I was waiting for a sign and I never got it, so I didn't do that.
Sure. I will say that I could potentially be guilty of that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Right? Me too, for sure. For sure. Waiting, I don't know. And half the time I look at myself and I go, what are you waiting for? Like, what do you think? Like the Hogwarts train is going to show up in the middle of your living room or something? Although I suppose it could if I commanded it to, but
you just got to get to the right platform.
Exactly. But I mean, it's interesting because then when I suppose, it's not a bad conversation to have. We work together. We work on an energy matrix together. We work in the same space. So we manage the energy in that space together. And when we were working on our collaboration yesterday, I was paying attention to the energy in the room, as you were, and it was very, very apparent. There was some energetic block present in the whole matrix of the collaboration. I mean, and the truth is, I could have just passed that off as whatever, just a glitch in the matrix, whatever you want to call it. But instead, I was like, you know what? This feels like something we need to focus on. So this is a sign that is just a sense, right? It's just a sense of something, but there was a sign. And then what we did, we are energy workers. We'll be clear there. We understand energy and how to clear energy, the idea of clearing energy. We did what we did. I got up this morning, sat down at the computer and wrote an entire 6-week course almost that has been in the works for weeks. Like it is no accident that happened after we paid attention to the energy in the room and cleared whatever that blockage was.
Yeah, I was packing things up, and then every so often I'd come check back on the computer, and there was like no time passed. So you're like, oh, week 3's done, and you're like, oh, it's all done. I was like, it's been 20 minutes,
right? Like it was
like,
just,
oh my god,
it just was flowing. Plus I made that really wicked cool graphic.
Couple of them
today too. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, so the signs, discernment. That's that's one of the I worked with different teachers or different mentors, different reader, whatever, gotten advice from different people. Discernment is another one that is really up there. Like in what is it? In how often I hear it. You need to bring discernment to the party. Don't just assume that a feather is in your path, so that's an angel trying to get a hold of you. Perhaps it's some other kind of sign. You have a connection to something, or maybe it means you need to go to the zoo, or whatever. Whatever. Like discernment.
Right.
Like connect to your own way of interpreting that information. Empower yourself to get the answers you want, rather than be at the mercy of. Well, I don't want to say at the mercy. That's not the right word. They want you to be successful. They want you to succeed. That's what the guidance is for. They want you to be in alignment. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's 8:00 already.
How about it?
How does that happen?
When I have to start doing a 4-hour talk show.
I know, right? We could totally do that too.
We just have to film ourselves at the space. That'd be a lot of editing, though.
Oh yeah, we'd have to edit a lot out. Wow. So, final thoughts on signs. What do you think? They're real, right?
Definitely real. What did my T say? Let's see. Develop the power of listening.
Yes.
Use discernment. Ask specific questions. And don't forget to flex your intuitive muscle.
Wow.
And work it out. There we go.
See, now we could have just done the whole show in 1 minute.
Then we could have talked about road signs and how people don't follow them, and that's a problem.
Yeah, we didn't get to that.
We didn't.
We didn't get to that.
And the movie. We didn't really get to the movie. That's okay.
Which is, also okay. Because we got to the book of Revelations instead.
We did.
So,
right.
So there is that. But, wow. This is so much fun. Like, I just feel like the more we do this, the better it's going to get. Again, I'm going to throw this out there. We throw this out there at every conversation we have on a live stream, is that if there is something you're dying to know about, something you want to hear about, something you'd love to hear us talk about, please drop it in the comments and we'll be happy to, even if we don't know anything about it, we'll be happy to talk about it. We'll do a little research if you give us
a little research
lead time.
Or if you don't want to do that, drop a direct message or a personal message or whatever you call it on the book.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
Or YouTube as well. The FaceTube.
The FaceTube. I like the FaceTube. And then of course don't forget, to smash that like button and
that's right.
Subscribe.
Smash the like button. Don't forget to ring that bell so then you get all of our notifications on all of our awesome classes and events we got coming up.
Oh wow. Yes. Awesome. I'm really excited. This development course that we've put together is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be really, really powerful for a lot of people. So stay tuned for more info on that. I anticipate being ready to really start rolling that out by the end of next week.
Perfect.
Maybe this week.
Plenty of time left. We're
maybe we'll do some sort of a listener, a listener prize or something.
Ooh.
Right?
Not opposed.
No.
Let's see. And then tomorrow we have our socially distant energy transmission extravaganza at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And then what day is it? It's Wednesday. Then Sunday at 10 a.m. Great way to start your week off. with our other socially distant energy transmission extravaganza at 10
Right,
a.m.
and we do that
Central, is what I think.
inside the MPowered Serenity Insiders group. So if you go to the MPowered Serenity page and just click the button that says visit group, we'll let you in, come in and hang out. Hey, Rachel, lovely to see you. Well, sort of see you. Anyway, you are most welcome. We're grateful you were here. Anyway, so yeah, just go on over and join the group. Visit us for that. Although it does show up on YouTube after we do it, right?
Yep.
So if you're
I think
listening
there's just
on
a little bit
YouTube,
of delay.
wait a little bit and it'll be there. And once again, we'll get into a position if we're doing it twice a week where if you sat and watched 5 or 6 videos, you could get yourself a really wicked awesome energy session.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you're talking 2 masters here. We don't play. We don't play around. No.
We do. We do play.
Well, we do play. Yeah, right.
Which means we don't play.
Which means we don't play. So. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks so much. We didn't go over too much. Because we started a couple minutes late.
Yep. No, so we're good.
That's us, you know. We say 7, we mean 7:03.
Yep.
Just is what it is. Get used to it. No, we will try to do better to honor your time.
That's right.
That's what I mean.
Ooh, well said. Good save.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Tune in tomorrow, 7. We'll see you then. And then if not, we'll see you Sunday. And then if not, then we'll see you next week. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye.